Everyone ready?
Yeah,
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to our September 9th, 2019 Fairfield County Council governmental meeting. First, we'll have the approval of the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved, 7-0. Now down to our invocation, Councilmember Gilbert.
Let us bow our heads. Father God, we come before you in the precious name of your living Son, Jesus Christ, giving you thanks and praises right now for this opportunity to serve your county, Lord. We ask now, Lord God, that what we do be pleasing in your eyesight. We ask that, Lord God, that you just have favor upon us right now. Bless each council member, bless all of our citizens, and Lord God, we just ask for your wisdom. This we pray in your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Now down to our approval of the regular meeting minutes, August 26, 2019 dated. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes for August 26, 2019 approved. There are no public presentations. Now down to our first public comment session. Ms. Davis, anyone sign to speak?
We have one speaker, Mr. Randy Bright, who wishes to speak on millage.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway, Fairfield County. I want to take this opportunity to remind all of you, which I think you already know, but it's good to place emphasis to remind everybody that our millage rate currently is one of the highest in the state, that our mill value is one of the highest in the state, that our expenditure per capita, according to a study commissioned by our own county council a few years ago, is nearly double the rate of the other 18 so-called rural counties in South Carolina. Now, I fully understand that you guys are boxed in by the plethora of mistakes made by preceding councils. And I'm not asking for a reduction in the millage rate, but I implore you to hold the line. If you ever go online and shopping for homes, one of the most glaring emphasis, aside from the obvious pertinency of the home itself, is what are the property taxes? Do not raise property taxes. We're losing population now, according to every estimated census. I don't see any new developments coming in. So we've got to hold the line on property taxes, but I do understand that you can't reduce them. Frankly, we're just boxed in because of the many mistakes of the plethora of mistakes that were made in the really decades before you guys came on board. So, word to the wise, I am confident that you're not going to raise the millage. And again, I remind you, our expending per capita is around double typical county, rural county in South Carolina. I remind you that our millage rates are one of the highest in the state, and of course our spending per capita is one of the highest in the state. So take those facts in consideration now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes segment one.
Thank you. Now down to our public hearings. We have one tonight, application and expenditure for the 2019 JAG grant funds. At this public hearing, Fairfield County will provide information concerning the proposed use of the funds in an identified program purpose area. Before we open the public hearing, I guess I see the sheriff back there. You want to give us are you able to give us a description, Sheriff? Okay, thank you.
Council, good evening.
Good evening.
Administrator, good evening. Citizens of Fairfield County, good evening. This is a JAG grant for $11,663. This grant will go towards a throwable robot, which is about that big, that you can throw it across a wall, over a wall, or throw it on the second story if you need to. It comes with a remote, with a monitor on the remote. Also has audio on it. It's a pretty cool tool. We'll be able to use it. And the other part of the grant will go towards 7 rangefinders for our investigators to use on crime scenes. Y'all have any questions?
What does the box do?
The robot, you'll be able to walk it around in a crime scene, or say if we got a shooting or anything like that, or a barricaded subject, we can take the robot and throw it in there and go around and see what we're dealing with without sending a deputy in there. The robot's $10,000, and the rangefinders for 7 of them is about $1,100.
Sheriff, this is a grant you get currently every year, correct?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Have any questions in reference to the JAG grant? I do want to ask just one question. How are you now as far as capacity? Are you with the raise?
We're doing a lot better now.
Okay.
Yep, we're getting there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
With the raise that we did, that was across the board, 6%, everybody received that.
Right. It was the 3% cost of living, and then the 3% across the board.
Okay. All right. Any further questions from council? All right. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank y'all.
All right. Thank Sheriff for that description. I'll go ahead and open this public hearing up at 6:07. Ms. Davis, anyone signed to speak?
No one signed to speak.
Okay. We'll go ahead and close that at 6:09 public hearing. Now down to our ordinances, resolutions, and orders. Item A, a resolution number 2019-8, a resolution establishing the millages for Fairfield County for the fiscal year 2019-2020. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to hear maybe, well, this is the resolution or the first reading?
Resolution.
Could you tell us what?
Certainly, I would be glad to. We are holding the line on the millage rate. It is 181.8 mills. Our auditor, Ms. Peggy Hensley, she has determined that that millage rate will generate enough revenue to cover the budget that the council has previously passed. I will say, while we aren't raising the millage rate, unfortunately, what people will be billed will be slightly higher this year, and that's basically due to the local option sales tax credit factor. You have a local option sales tax that comes in, and that typically reduces the amount that people have to pay on their taxes. Our credit has gone down and down and down because our retail base has eroded. As we have less retail base here, the local option sales tax credit decreases for us. So even though we will keep the millage rate at the exact same amount, people will see a bill that's going to be slightly higher this year.
Just won't get the discounts because the retail outlets aren't selling enough for sales tax.
That's correct, yes, sir.
Any further discussion from council? If not, all those in favor? Any opposed? Resolution 2019-08 is approved 7-0. Now down to our board and commission minutes, received of information only. Does any council member has any question in reference to Fairfield County Disabilities and Special Needs? If not, we'll go on down to board and commission appointments. We have one for appointment tonight, a library commission. We have the reappointment of Ms. Polly Phillips, District 6. All those in favor? I'm sorry, do I have a motion?
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Ms. Phillips is approved 7-0. No old business, new business, consideration of approval of application for 2019 JAG grant funds. As you heard the sheriff give a description, at this time I entertain a motion.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's approved 7-0, 2019 JAG grant. Now down to our county administrator's report, Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry.
It's easy to get us confused, I know.
Get them confused, right?
We do have, Mr. Jason Pope was here, was going to be here tonight to present on the Fire Safe South Carolina Community Risk Reduction Program that we're looking to participate in. But as he wasn't able to make it, we have Mr. Ray Hoschel here, our fire inspector, who will be giving us that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, Chairman, council members, and residents of Fairfield County. We have an opportunity to participate in a program called the Fire Safe South Carolina program. This was a program developed in the State Fire Marshal's office and made available to all 46 counties here in South Carolina. The objective here is we want to unite all of our counties and our states to change, and unite for change. So you may have seen this. This has been posted on our county Fire Service Facebook account, on our Twitter account. But I want to take this opportunity to invite the council members, the citizens who are interested. We're going to have a meeting on Thursday, September the 19th at 7 o'clock. It's going to be over at the Midlands Tech Fairfield campus in the Fairfield room. And the whole purpose of that is to help make Fairfield County a fire-safe South Carolina county. So the purpose of the meeting is to provide an overview of the Fire Safe South Carolina program. It is a community risk reduction program. What is that? What is community risk reduction? That's the efforts of the fire service and its partners to work to reduce the fire loss and the fire fatalities in our state. During the meeting, the representatives will go over with everybody the current state and county community fire risk profiles. They actually have profiled a little bit about each county, but primarily for us, Fairfield, as to where our fire problems are. What types of fires are we having? And we'll discuss some of the current programs that we have in place to work towards that risk reduction. And the best part is, I believe, it's going to be to allow an opportunity for networking for the state and all of our local stakeholders. Who are our stakeholders? It's not just the fire department, it's everybody. So who should attend this meeting? And this is just a few examples. Local church leaders. We need to have a strong working relationship with our churches because we have congregations and they have fire problems. We need to be able to address those and help to work together. Our political leaders, our council, our administration, everyone that has the opportunity to have an impact on the fire and life safety of Fairfield County. Civic leaders, we typically have involvement with groups like the Lions Club and other groups. Business leaders, we have a lot of businesses that would love to get involved in our risk reduction program. They just don't know where to start or how to do it. Volunteer organization leaders, we're already partnering with the Red Cross, so that's an example. But just as important as all of the above, it's involved citizens. We need the support of the citizens of Fairfield County if we're going to work to reduce our risk here in the county. So, what are some of the goals and objectives of this program? One is going to be, we're trying to work towards a reduction in annual home fires across the state, which will decrease the risks for the residents of our state, and in our case, our county, and to help better protect our firefighters. So the second objective is to provide consistent fire prevention messaging across the state. The message on fire and life safety needs to be the same in Fairfield County as it is in Lawrence County or Anderson County. The fire's the same, the risks are the same, and the types of fires we're having are the same. It'll also help us to provide better data-driven resources to enhance the programs that the state is developing and that we are going to be developing as a group for things that we can do to improve Fairfield County. And the last item as an objective is to improve the fire data quality. we have flaws in our data program in the fact that not all departments, fire departments in the state participate in the fire reporting. So we're working towards that through the county involvement to make sure everybody's is participating. Just something you may not know, to me it's rather sad. Last year, 2018, we suffered 97 fire fatalities across the state of South Carolina. 97 of our citizens did not get up tomorrow morning. This year, so far, to date, as of the 27th of August, we've had 42. Is it down? Yes. At mid-year? Not really. But is it as low as it should be? Absolutely not. We need to be able to focus on our community needs and help in our community and in our state. Just for the record, in 2017, we had a total of 5 fatalities right here in Fairfield County. So we need to think about that as we're looking towards our program. Reducing fire ignitions, this is a basic logical statement. Reducing fire ignitions can reduce fire fatalities. If we don't have the fire start, that's preventing a fatality from a fire. So we need to be looking at what do we do to reduce the fire ignitions. The community needs to work together to promote fire and life safety messaging, to be able to get the word out to everybody. In our department, we use social media quite a bit between Facebook and Twitter, but there are other organizations that may have newsletters or other forms of communication that we can get that information out to you, the public. The fact that's a little bit scary right there is that 70% of the homes in South Carolina do not have adequate smoke alarm coverage. There are many homes that have a smoke alarm. The recommendation for smoke alarms is 1 in every bedroom, 1 in every sleeping area, and 1 on every level. So therefore, if you only have 1 smoke alarm in your house, you have inadequate coverage to protect you and your family. And the other part that we go with is that a majority of our fire fatalities across the state and actually across the nation, the majority of the fire fatalities involve human factors, human involvement, and all of that with education can be prevented. If we can educate people more, they won't make the silly mistakes that are costing lives in our county.
Mr. Bell, you got a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Before you move on around the smoke alarms, please tell the audience what the fire service is doing by trying to place fire alarms in people's homes.
Surely. Across the state of South Carolina, through the Fire Safe South Carolina program, they're making through grants available to fire departments smoke alarms so that, again, part of the risk reduction campaign we're trying to get started in full force is they can be provided at no cost to the homeowner once we get the alarms through the program. So I think that's basically what we're trying to do through this, is also to be able to, by participating, to be able to get a piece of that pie of smoke alarms, for lack of a better term, so that we'll have them for our citizens. Okay? And again, remember, human factors, careless acts. We still have people who take the ashes out of their charcoal grill, put them in a paper bag, and put them in their trash can up against the side of their house, and they still burn. So there's just the training and the education, and that's what the fire service's major function should be, is to prevent the preventable fires, reduce the loss of life and the loss of property.
Mr. Jones, is there somewhere we can apply for or to receive those grant funds for the?
We'll be working with that as part of this program.
Okay.
And again, y'all are invited. We'd love to pack out the Midlands campus.
There's another question, and this to you, Mr. Taylor. One of the things on Thursday night, they got the Council on Aging, they got the senior prom, and that's from 6 to 8. and we probably can't do anything about this meeting that's already scheduled, but going forward, could we look at that to make sure we don't have things that conflict in such a big way? Because this is a good program, and we need our citizens to attend, but a lot of citizens have made commitments to go to the senior prom sponsored by the Council on Aging.
That's a good point. We do need to try to schedule things where there's not conflicts. We will look at doing that in the future.
Well taken. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, and just in the last slide, again, unite for a change. Us and the fire service, you as the citizens, partnering together to improve our overall fire and life safety in our county. So we want to make sure if you're available, we invite you now, and this will be talked about some more, invite you to the discussions and just become an active part of the solution to our problem. We've got an RSVP address there for anybody who needs to pre-register, would like to pre-register. Katie.Jernigan at fairfield.sc.gov. And there are some handouts, there are handouts out in the hallway and the table if you'd like to take some with you and be able to distribute them to your constituents.
Excuse me, my fault. I'm looking at the day, but not the date. So the date's all right.
Okay. I thought we had just scoured the calendar. All right, does anybody have any questions?
You kind of mentioned about participation in the fire reports that some areas or departments don't participate. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Surely. There's what's called NFIRS, which is a shortened version of the National Fire Information Reporting System. Sorry about that. NFIRS. And that's a program that goes through to a national database that's used to determine all kinds of things about fire safety in our country. Each fire department has a designated number they report under, and so we use that information for many things. At state level, when I worked for the state, we use that information to go to the legislature and ask for money for people, departments that were hurting, help get some funding from the state. So I don't remember the exact statistic now, but we are up greatly from where we were 5 years ago in the reporting. Fairfield County is actively reporting in that. So every time we turn a wheel with the fire apparatus, we now submit the report. So we are part of the solution to the problem.
Who can get these fire alarms, smoke alarms?
Basically, it's anybody who has a need for.
Well, I need 90 of them.
We'll discuss that at a later date, sir. Okay, any further questions? All right, thank you for your time and for letting us present this very important program.
That's all I had. Thank you.
That was short. There is no clerk to council's report. Now down to our second public comment session. Ms. Davis.
We have 6 speakers tonight. First, Ms. Shirley Green speaking on the Teacher Village.
Good evening. Good evening, Council. Good evening, fellow citizens. Teacher housing, risk aversion. If I might use a familiar parable of the talents from the Bible, a rich ruler who leaves for an extended period of time bestows some cash upon his servants. He gives each servant a different sum of cash according to their abilities. One receives 5 talents, one receives 2 talents, and the last one receives 1. When the ruler returns, he finds that the first servant doubled his 5 talents and now has 10. The second servant doubled his talents and now has 4. But the last one hid his talents and never used it. Are we hiding our talents? Are we afraid to take a chance with someone else's money? Are we afraid of failure, or are we afraid of success? What is an acceptable risk for bringing teacher housing to Fairfield County? A risk of using economic development incentives for the investors? A risk of creating housing for teachers that will improve our educational system? A risk to infuse approximately $250,000 into our local economy? A risk to stem the declining population in Fairfield County? Council, the worst thing you can do for Fairfield County is to stop trying to improve our situation. Life is about progression in all things, including efforts to improve the future of our children. We don't have people knocking on our doors to develop housing of any kind here in Fairfield County. Don't let the fear of a lawsuit, or failure as it's known, hold you back from opportunities of success. Let's use the opportunities before us to let our light shine. Economic development without housing is short-sighted and detrimental to Fairfield County. Fairfield County must stem the tide of population decline. For the last 9 years, Fairfield County population has declined from 23,841 people in 2010, and as estimated to 22,612 in 2017, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Council people, we have an opportunity in front of us. We can either accept an opportunity and move forward, or we can deny an opportunity and keep our light and our talents under a basket. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Shonda Jefferson, speaking on the Teacher Village.
Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Shonda Jefferson, and I'm the 2020 South Carolina Teacher of the Year. And I'm so grateful that I was able to earn that title while working here in Fairfield County. Currently, our state is facing a crisis, and we're having trouble recruiting and retaining teachers. And I truly believe that it will take innovative ideas in order for us to recruit teachers into the profession. And I truly believe that the Teacher Village is an innovative idea to recruit teachers and provide young teachers, single teachers, with affordable housing. Another thing that I think is very important for having the Teacher Village is the short commute, or the commute time. As a teacher in Fairfield County, at one point in time, I was traveling about an hour and 40 minutes from my hometown to Fairfield County, an hour and 40 minutes out. And that was after 4 months, I decided that I wanted to find a property or rental property in the area. When I looked up properties, it was very hard for me to find a place that was feasible for me to stay in Winsboro County. So I ended up renting an apartment on the northeast side of Richland, which is about a 40 or 30-minute drive from here. My ideal commuting rate or commuting time is about 10 to 15 minutes because I enjoy this community and working with the students here. And the time that I commute could be time that I spend in the classroom working with my students or developing lessons to make sure that I engage them for extended periods of time. So I truly believe that the Teacher Village will be important for teachers here to recruit and attract them to this area, and also for teachers that just want to live in the area, gives us the opportunity to have access to affordable housing. Another thing that I think is important, when I worked in Richland County, I had the opportunity to be a cooperating teacher. So student teachers were able to follow me around, and I serve as a mentor for them. They intern with me in my classroom. I called the University of South Carolina and asked them for a student teacher for the past few years in Fairfield County, and they told me, we would love to send you one, but students don't have the gas money and the opportunity to get gas to come up to the rural area. So Imagine University of South Carolina renting one of those homes for a senior student to be able to come in and do their internship up under one of the teachers in Fairfield County, and those teachers will have the opportunity to stay here, live here, and work here. So please consider placing the Teacher Village back on your agenda. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Jeff Morris, speaking on council authority.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to say about the wisdom of the teacher village, but I do want to raise a question about council authority to do these things. The council has the power certainly to grant tax abatements and other economic incentives to help development. It has to do that, or it can do that only if there is a public purpose. Obviously, I think it's been well demonstrated the public purpose would be to improve opportunities for teachers and so forth, all the things that would flow from that. As a result, I would assume that the agreement that we're talking about includes specific provisions that reduce the tax abatement pro rata to the extent that the housing is not being used by teachers or other allowable tenants. The secrecy of this makes it impossible to know what the agreement is, but it seems to me that that's a fundamental limitation on the power of the council to grant such an abatement. I'm not sure how the school district is allowed to transfer 22 acres for free. That's their issue. My focus would be today on the notion of, does this council have the authority to do it in the absence of limits on that abatement usage for a public purpose? We were told a year ago by Dr. Green that this hedge fund might not be around, and we need them here. And if we don't act quickly, they could very well walk. Well, they're sticking around. Why? Hedge funds are profit-making groups. They see a profit in this. They see the possibility of this could be a fairly short-term project. By the time the abatement period runs out, they've got 22 acres, a bunch of homes, and they can do with it whatever they want. I think the county should be careful about this, thoughtful about it. Mr. Smith mentioned specifically we've got to watch out and make sure that we have indemnification for the county and that legal costs are not going to be borne by the county when these challenges come. And it seems to me very fundamentally a challenge could arise that says you didn't even have the authority to do this, depending on how that contract is written. If there's that much confidence in the hedge fund that they'll have teachers and they'll have them there for 50 years, the life of the building, great. But if they're saying, well, we don't need that provision, I'd be very cautious. I think less secrecy might help. Obviously, there are limits on how much you can be public with these things. I understand negotiations. But I hope the council's very, very thoughtful about this and considers what the extent of its power and authority is. Thank you. And with my 4 seconds, I also wanted to congratulate Mr. Taylor, whoever it is, who's redone the website. I think it looks great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Jackie Wortman, speaking on visions.
Oh, no. It's supposed to start at 3. I saw you. Don't think I did. Okay. No. Look at him, a chairman.
You talking?
No, I'm not talking. He keeps starting the clock. Okay. All right. Good evening, Chairman Robinson and council members. This is the 3rd time coming with these questions. Did County Council approve the spending of the farmers market? If so, where are the minutes? If not, did the county administrator do the work? Number 2, did County Council authorize the spending of the $85,000 on the farmers market by the county administrator? Did the county administrator violate the procurement policy by purchases he made on the county credit card? Have the administrator violated the procurement policy by other means? Did the administrator purchase a truck for himself without authorization from county council? Why is it that Saving Fairfield, The Voice, and the NAACP isn't saying anything about the unauthorized spending by the county administrator? Is it because the spending is in a select community? Why is it that people normally who comes before council isn't saying a mumbling word about the unauthorized spending? Is it because it's the wrong person in the wrong community? That should be a thought in your mind. And it's not personal.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Thomas Armstrong, speaking on money.
Good evening, everybody. Of course, my name is Thomas Armstrong, and I come tonight to start out with a basic fundamental mathematical question. If I spend $10,000 8 times, is it not $80,000? If I spend $80,000 at one time, is it not $80,000? I ask the question because whether I take monies, because I have a threshold or a certain amount of money that I can spend, and I spend it in increments beneath my threshold, but the total is still the total. Is it not? So why is it that council, who are elected, have a responsibility of making sure that the taxpayers' money are spent within the policies in which you all have established? Now, we're going to be more specific and talk about the farmers market. I hear it's great, and I think it's here. I think there's a great idea that it's here, but you all have a responsibility of making sure that the policy that is set forth by you all are followed to the T. Now, if you all are going to allow someone to circumvent the rules, if I can spend $10,000 8 times and still spend $80,000 and I don't have to have it approved, then why do we need y'all? And if y'all are going to allow our administrator to do it, why do we need him? At the end of the day, you all have the accountability to the people of Fairfield County. Now, are some of you aware of it and others of you not? At the end of the day, $80,000 or $80-some thousand is gone on a condemned building that was once condemned, all of a sudden is not condemned anymore. So who is it that want to be the one to have an investigation done to determine the usefulness of the money? Because I asked for the minutes. There are no minutes, I was told. Asked for the video. There are no video, I was told. Well, why isn't there in the video? Because it was not board approved. Why wasn't it board approved? Because there were several transactions that was less than the threshold that I'm allowed to spend. At the end of the day, $80,000 is $80,000. Whether I spend it over 3 weeks, 4 weeks, several months. So what are y'all gonna do about it? Are we falling back into the same old loop that we had once before? Understanding that you all are a new board, but practicing the same rules as before. Wrong is wrong, immoral is immoral, unjust is injustice. So what are y'all gonna do about it? I'll be waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Randy Bright, speaking on Time Marches On.
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway, Fairfield County. I have a few suggestions. First of all, I think was kind of a segue with a question earlier with the fire department's presentation. Going back and looking at the county's calendar on their website, there's nothing on it except holidays. It would be nice for the public, for organizations, and for anybody to be able to look on a county calendar for events that are coming up so there won't be conflicts and so that everyone's informed and have one ready, handy point to look at for events in the county, whether it's a fire safety event, whether it's the annual Rotary Run, or any of these types of events. Let's get them all on the county, and we have one website, everybody knows, and everybody can plan for things. Because there has been certain conflicts in the past where people have to make a decision, do I go here, do I go there? So that will help as far as planning. And I realize you can't get everything a year in advance, but there's a lot of annual events that we do have that you can get on there, and other event sponsors can get in time to at least they can look at the calendar and see that there's no conflict. And the community at large can see what events we have in place. And another segue, I thought Jason brought up an interesting point about the sales tax. Internet sales tax. Are we collecting our share from the state, and how are we doing that? That's number one. Because that's part of the reason that sales tax is down everywhere, is because internet is overtaking brick and mortar retail business. So are we getting our due from the state, number one? Number two, I think you all know that the state is still working on getting collection from all internet sellers over like $100,000. I don't know the exact threshold. We collect most from the largest retailers that are online now, but we don't get it all as a state. So what are we doing to push that we get all of our tax money from online sales and from the state that collects online sales? Lastly, I'd like to remind everybody, speaking of collection of money, time marches on. Every year that we delay, for whatever reason, getting a referendum on a penny tax for sewer and water is another $2 million that we're behind on sewer and water improvements, which we desperately need. You know, we talked about in every meeting we have. Ms. Green always talks about, hey, we need people to come here. Well, we can't get people to come here unless we have sewer and water. So I mean, if we don't know how to do the referendum, talk to Richland. They do a ton of referendums, and they'll come up with a nice. Thanks.
Thank you. That concludes segment 2.
All right, now down to our county council time. I'll just go ahead and say it's been discussed about Mr. Taylor's vehicle. I'm not sure if council remembers his vehicle was hit while it was parked. Therefore, the insurance company bought him a new one. I'm not sure if the public needs to know that or council needs to know that. Go ahead.
The farmers market. A great deal of the money for the farmers market was a donation from Walmart. And Walmart gave it to Fairfield County to improve downtown Winsboro, and I think the farmers market has done that. The other money that's being spent, we're getting grants for different things in the farmers market to make it better.
I think it was I think it was $30,000. It was a $30,000 grant.
Right.
Right.
So it's no use to complain about it because it really didn't cost the taxpayers much money at all. Another thing is the citizens in our county can have their animals spayed or neutered with a fund that the county has. Each family can have one animal spayed or neutered each year with no cost. I urge everyone to take advantage of this project. Do not turn your animal out because they have a litter of little ones. As long as the fund is available, the county will pay for it. One animal per family each year, and that will really help the animal control.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Also, just to go ahead and finish, I have checked into the procurement process with Mr. Taylor, and it is an amount that Mr. Taylor can spend on special projects. And the procurement manual he did follow, so I'm not sure if it's a witch hunt somewhere or what's going on. But in other terms, Mr. Taylor, I know it's not customary, but would you or Mr. Morgan be able to enlighten us to a brief degree on where we are with the Teachers Village?
The Teacher Village is something council has directed me to do everything we could to find a solution for. Indemnification, that tends to be where we are finding a sticking point. All fee in lieu ofs, all these SSRCs, special source revenue credits, all these agreements that we've entered into, we've had indemnification, which basically protects us from getting sued. Should we get sued, then the company, whoever's project it is, they have to cover the cost of our legal fees. And when these kind of suits come up, and Tommy, please correct me if I'm wrong, we would have to cover their legal fees too. Is this correct?
Again, it depends on the language, but that's the whole purpose of the indemnification. So if it does go into litigation, the county finds their legal fees, which can easily approach 6 figures on top of the amount of the funds that are actually in play. So that is the reason why the indemnification is placed in there, to protect the taxpayers and protects the money that the Fairfield County Council is agreeing to provide to these type of developments, again, in the best interest of the financial management of the taxpayers.
And one of the problems where we have more hesitation with this than we would with the standard industrial project, the law was written for industry, for a recruitment of industrial prospects. It really wasn't written so much for housing. Richland has started doing it for housing, student housing, primarily over at the college. But they've also gotten a suit against them at this point. That suit has not been settled. So in using these tax incentives for residential, it's a bit of a stretch of the law. Maybe in the end be fine, and we hope it will be fine in the end. But right now it's an unsettled issue legally. So there's a little bit more risk for the council in that respect. That's what our attorneys advise us.
But we are looking at alternatives.
But we are looking at alternatives. One of the alternatives, and we thought this was a particularly creative way around it because it's something we have done. When we wanted Providence Hospital, we had an issue where we cannot indemnify them, but they were very worried that an appropriation, that the next council may not appropriate the money because we pay them $1 million a year to be here. And they were afraid that we would not pay that. So they wanted some type of assurance, some type of indemnification. We couldn't legally do that. So what we did is set up an escrow account. We put aside $4 million to ease their concerns that we would not follow through with what we said we would do. And so we've looked at the same kind of situation with this teacher village. Maybe if the company, Gorlick Brothers, would put aside money in an escrow account, then and make that escrow account favorable to the county. Should we get sued, then we don't have to get any more permission. We could draw money out of that escrow account to cover our legal fees. So we thought that would be a creative way around it. We were told by Gorlick that they would not do that. Then we reached out to the school district and the foundation because, again, we're trying to find ways to make this work. Maybe the school district could possibly put aside monies in an escrow account. We have not found that that's going to happen either. So we're still looking at options, and that's why it's not on tonight's agenda, because we're still trying to hammer out something that would work. If either the school district or Gorlick would come up with either, again, the indemnification or the escrow account, I think we would probably find a path forward. Tommy, would you like to add any to that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of council, again, we are trying our best to come forward. We have spent close to 40 hours in different types of communications, negotiations, going back and forth, phone calls, meetings, trying to come up with something because this is, as Mr. Taylor said, a project that's a little bit outside the normal scope of a fee in lieu of tax agreement, hence the reason why these projects have been challenged. There's a standing 2011 Attorney General's opinion that starts talking about some of the housing issues. That's a concern. The litigation that Mr. Taylor mentioned is currently pending before the South Carolina Supreme Court, and actually Fairfield County is named in that suit because they are part of the fee in lieu of tax agreement with Richland County, and all the county's fees are being covered by the indemnification clause that is in that agreement. So the county's not spending any money because they have that indemnification language in place. Standard language, again, one of the reasons why we're trying to include it in this particular project.
Councilman Paul.
I also want to speak about the teacher village. I'm going to speak to the idea that council is somehow stopping this project from going forward. I don't want to further strain a relationship, but the record has to be set straight. We began with talks about this project over a year ago. From day one, on the advice of legal counsel and based on every other contract the county has with private businesses, county asked the developer to be willing to indemnify the county in case of any legal claims asserted against the county based on this project. This is something that is routine and is a standard for all of our contracts. Since council requested the indemnification on day one a year ago, we have spent valuable effort, time, and hard resources, around $10,000, toward making this project work. In hindsight, we should have hit the pause button on this project until we learned whether the developer was willing to indemnify the county, but in a good faith effort to work together and try to get over this finish line, we proceeded with laying all the necessary groundwork to make it happen. In the end, after a year of effort, time, and money, the other parties involved in this potential project have been unwilling to help the county mitigate and manage its associated risks. Again, this is something the council requested from day one on this project, so don't point the finger at the county. And to the idea that there is no risk, there's an avenue for this to happen without the county's involvement at all. If others truly believe there is no risk, let them proceed to make the deal happen. And this council, I believe I can say this, will be a supportive, willing partner and participant.
Councilman Douglas.
I heard you say something about Mr. Taylor's accident he had.
Yeah,
A couple of weeks ago, I contacted law enforcement and asked them if I could see the accident report. I told them about when it was and didn't get a response. About 2 or 3 days later, they called me and said there was no report on it. They hadn't done an investigation. But he assured me that since he learned about it, that the person involved in it would be arrested and a case would be made against him. So it wasn't Mr. Taylor's fault he needed another car.
It's a parked vehicle. Mr. Bell.
One of the things I want to do is talk about the teacher village too. I do believe it's a very innovative idea. I think it has the potential to do a lot of things for the school district. And I guess I've been probably talking to Mr. Taylor, I know probably 8 or 10 times on last week, trying to see what we can do to make sure that we get this this teacher village where it need to be, so we can go ahead and get the contracts in line. I don't believe that we need to stop the effort. I think, Mr. Taylor, and I know you're already working on it, but this is a piece of work we need to do for this county, and we need to do it for the school district. If we're able to get the teacher village in place, it would mean a lot to this county, not only for the schools, but economic development across the county. So again, I want to thank you for the work, but again, I'm hoping that we find a solution, and I'm hoping you just continue to work with everybody involved so we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Vice Chair Goins.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. Again, everything, I guess, has just been said on this particular project, and the bottom line is covering the taxpayers, covering the county. But I don't see it as just the taxpayers. When I think of the school district is a part of Fairfield County. When this project is in place or construction began, that becomes a part of Fairfield County. So in all right and with all justification, we're actually trying to protect everybody involved in it. And that's the only way to do it, to make sure that we have a legal cover. Some say that they are just low risk, but even that low risk can have a great impact financially, that all of us would have to bear that burden. We cannot give up on this project. We have to continue to move forward with it. We're going to try in every conceivable way possible to make it happen, and I believe that it will. We just haven't got to the right point yet. I believe that it will happen. But I thank everyone for their efforts. I would like to see, instead of a little bit of hostility, let's bring a little bit of peace into this thing and start thinking on another level of what can we actually do to get this done, with everybody putting a part in the pot. If that's what it's going to take, then we're going to have to look at maybe doing that. And on the other thing, the fire safety, thank you so much for bringing that program forward and letting us know about it. And when you're saying fire safety, my first thought is water. My first thought, you can't do anything with the fire without water. And especially in the outer areas of Fairfield County, in the inner areas of Fairfield County. We need high water capacity. We need fire hydrants. All of those things come under your fire safety. Without them, we can have all the fire trucks we need, all the fire marshals and everybody else we need. But without good water pressure, we can't out in anything. So I'm glad you brought the program forward. And on the water problem in the western area, It's an ongoing thing. It shouldn't even be like that. There's no big corporation trying to take over anything. It's just one county with all the residents trying to do what's best for everybody. And again, everybody needs to put into that pot to make it happen, not just for those that are here now, for those that are come, for our children, grandchildren. All of that is a part of economic development and building the county. On the, I think there was another incident, there was something else I had in mind to say. But anyway, that's it. But when it comes to fire safety, water. Then after water, sewer. That was the other thing. When we talk about our economic development, we also need to think about our environment. We want to build homes. We want people to come in and build homes in different areas. But every time you drop a septic tank in the ground, there's more open space for contamination to the water that we're trying to get out of the earth. The less that we do that, the less wells that we put in place and using one source, the better quality of water we can have, the better testing process we can have, better innovative standards that we can have, and less contamination to the environment. So when we think of all those things, they all come into play, and they're all a part of the quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Goins. Councilman Gilbert.
Chairman, I like to speak a little bit on the teacher village. You know, I think, sort of piggybacking off a little bit of what Mr. Pauly said, that the council is being unfairly, you know, accused of not wanting this project to go through. And I think if you took a poll, the majority of us really, really want to see it go through. But then, you know, I look at it is that it's like a contractor telling me that he's going to build me a $3,000 house, and the only way he's going to build that house if I don't take out insurance on that house. And it really kind of concerns me that the developer doesn't want to work with us. In the 9 months that I've been here on council, not once have we met with the Gorlick brothers. I know Mr. Morgan has, but we have some questions and some concerns that we want to ask them, and from what I gather, they refuse to talk with us. I want what's best for Fairfield County. I really do. I want the teacher village. I really do. But I suppose we agree to agree on the teacher village, and during the construction, someone gets hurt, and then the county gets sued, and we have wiped out the indemnity clause. Who are they going to look at? Well, council, you voted for it. So I'm still, and people say you don't bring up prayer or the Bible when you're on council, but I do. I'm praying that the good Lord gives me the right decision when it comes down to voting on that. I want to see it. I want to see it here, but I want to see Gorlick Brothers work with Fairfield County, work with council to make this thing work for both sides.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Just one last thing I want to bring to council's attention. The next meeting, I want to us consider going to one meeting for the months of October, November, and December. Just to be quite frank with you, it was a struggle getting this agenda together, and according to the bylaws now, it has to be a council decision. As you already know, we approved the meetings for the year. So just to be aware, is something that I want to put on the next agenda to possibly go to one meeting for the next last 3 months out of the year. And if there is a needed meeting, then we could call it a special meeting. So
That's fine with me. That's fine with me.
any council member has any other comment, concerns? If not, there is no executive session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. We are adjourned at 7 o'clock.